Okay. So here is what we are doing today. Maybe. There we go. Y'all, I'm sorry. The internet is like, it's killing me today. It usually is, though. The 11th. Okay, so we're going to talk about the Mexican-American War and the Alamo, Texas Revolution, and all of that. I have 2 videos for you guys to watch. I'm not going to make you watch them right here and now. Is YouTube working for us now? That's weird. Okay, anyway.
Sorry.
No, go ahead. What were you going to say?
For me, it's only working if I do it at specific times, if I pull them up like way after school, like at 5.
Huh. Well,
It's weird.
it is weird. It usually doesn't work while I'm here. So, I don't know. Okay, well, this is the PowerPoint we're going to be going through. You don't have to do this part. You do have notes right here to take. I don't want to fill in the blank notes. I already have them. Well, here, look, this is what they look like. There's 3 pages of notes, and that's it. I would definitely, you don't turn this one in. You do have 2 assignments to do. I would still take the notes though, because if you don't take the notes, then you're gonna miss out on some of the more important stuff. And you guys do have a test on all of this at the end of this month. So, I would do it if I were you. So let me pull up the PowerPoint. Boom. Okay. So technically, this is technically the Texas War for Independence is going to, you know what? Hold on. Let's do this one first. Because, sorry, yeah, there's 2 PowerPoints. Woohoo. You don't have to take notes on the first one, though. We're just going to, like, plow through it. Where'd it go? There it is. No, it's not. Yeah, it is. Is that it? That's not it. There it is. As you guys can tell, my life is not organized yet. Okay. Let me move that up. Okay, so Texas, the war for Texas independence and the way that Texas becomes a state is all going to start with these tensions that begin between the United States and Spain. And the tensions between the United States and Spain are going to be exacerbated by different tensions between the U.S. and other countries, the U.S. internally. We're still a very young nation at this point, so we're still kind of figuring out how the nation's going to work and how we're going to handle different issues that we face. So in 1816, you have a Republican, which would have been an anti-federalist, known as James Monroe. He is going to be elected as the president of the U.S., and his Speaker of the House is Henry Clay. And Henry Clay is super important. He is going to be he's going to factor into a lot from here on out, especially when we get into Andrew Jackson, because Henry Clay and Andrew Jackson could not stand each other. But he proposed something that is called the American system, and that's going to help out the economy, and it's going to increase the government's power. It's going to create higher tariffs, create a new bank of the U.S., and going to help with internal improvements, infrastructure things. So like roads, buildings, bridges, canals, all of that good stuff. And this is going to be a really good thing for a lot of people, because the Bank of the United States is actually going to help the economy. And it's going to revamp the economy, because the state banks had just been printing money and printing money and printing money of varying, like it was each state had its own type of money, and they could just print it out at random. The second bank, or the Bank of the United States, actually gives like a single system of exchange, or single system of currency in the United States. So it's going to help reduce inflation, it's going to stabilize the economy, and it's going to create an era of good feelings, which is like, if you think about like the way that a lot of people think of the 1950s or the 1990s, it's just this kind of really decent time period where everybody's kind of, they're okay. They've got money in their pockets, economy's doing okay, all of that good stuff. We did have a lot of competition from Britain, and this is going to be a big deal. British has better technology, so they can make better goods for cheaper. So this is where it gets a little tense, because we decide as a nation, the North decides as a nation to implement tariffs on Great Britain, and it's going to make foreign goods super expensive, and it's going to make it easier to buy United States goods. Well, when you consider that there are a lot of people in the South who are buying stuff cheap from Great Britain and from foreign countries to continue making a profit off of their, gigantic plantations and all of that, and then it's going to cause some problems, because the South ends up paying a whole lot more for goods that they need and that they want, while the people in the North, who are the manufacturing individuals, they're going to be benefiting from it because people have to buy their goods. So that's going to start a divide between the North and the South. There's already been a little bit of a divide over the issue of slavery, over the issue of how much of federalism, and what powers do we give to the state and the government, and then now the idea of tariffs and the economy is going to be problematic. All right, Missouri Compromise. All of this is leading up to sectionalism, and it's creating more and more tension with the U.S. Missouri Compromise. Missouri wanted to be a state, but they had slaves in that state. So with there being a perfect balance of slave states and free states, there was argument over whether they should let Missouri be a state or not. They said, well, Maine wants to be a state as well. We'll let it into the Union, and then it'll be a free state. Missouri will be a slave state, and we're balanced again. So consider that. Think about positives and negatives of the Missouri Compromise. Think of that on your own, because that might be a question that you see pop up again at some point in the nearish future. Hint, hint. Sectionalism is just, we're going to kind of skip this, but it's just that you have three different areas and three different groupings of culture, three different ideas of how a government should operate and how an economy should operate. All right, acquiring Florida. Here's where we get to tensions with Spain. So in 1810, Americans are going to capture Fort San Carlos in Spanish territory, which is down in Florida. It's going to be from Florida. It's going to be territory in Florida from the Mississippi River to what is called the Perdido River. So it's just a small little section of Florida, but we're going to claim it and say, hey, that's ours now. Then in 1813, we're going to annex land between Pearl River and Perdido River. So we're just kind of slowly but surely encroaching on Spanish territory. A lot of U.S. citizens thought that Florida should be a part of the United States. For Southerners, there was a problem of slaves escaping to freedom in that territory, and with it being the Spanish government, there was no way to get those individuals back, because the Spanish had, at this point, by about 1819, somewhere in there, the Spanish had, what is the word? Abolished. There it is. Had abolished slavery in their territories and their country. So you also had a huge problem with the Seminoles in Florida and in what is, like today, Georgia and Alabama, or lower Alabama. And the Seminoles were Native Americans who were attacking the settlers who were encroaching on their territory. Well, good old Andy Jackson, who is, he's one of my favorite presidents, even though I don't agree with his policies whatsoever, but he's such an interesting human being. Like he's crazy, really, really crazy, but in like a lot of very interesting ways. But he he's going to say, okay, well, I'm supposed to be here taking care of these Indian attacks. I'm going to chase the Seminoles down into Florida. And when he goes into Florida, he's making a U.S. military action against Spain. And it's going to increase and increase and increase tensions between U.S. and Spain, which is going to just continue building until you get to the Texas Revolution. Addisoni Treaty of 1819, this one's important, you need to remember it. The U.S. boundary is going to be established. It's going to cut Texas out. So this is before any war actually happens. Spain is going to keep all of this area, and the U.S. is going to pay $5 million in claims. We're going to get territory in Florida when we're going to get territory in Florida, because technically we've already bought it with Louisiana Purchase, but there are still sections of it that were Spanish owned. Oh, no, okay, Monroe Doctrine. All you need to know about the Monroe Doctrine is that it's President Monroe's foreign policy. So after Mexico is going to gain independence from Spain, they are going to, all of South America is going to start pushing back against Spain. So you're going to have revolutions in what is like today, present day Argentina, Brazil, Puerto Rico, all of those areas, Cuba, the Dominican, Haiti's already had a revolution. So they're going to kick Spain and Portugal out, and you're going to have this startup of other countries in South America. The problem with South America is that when they started their revolutions, they had people like Simon Bolivar and Jose de San Martin, who are going to do all of these really good things and are going to achieve independence, but then they're either going to die in battle or have problems with each other that they can't overcome. So instead of becoming all one nation like the US eventually does, South America is going to break up into little bits and pieces. President Monroe is upset about European powers because they were trying to help Spain regain land in the Americas, both sides. And the Monroe Doctrine said that they're not going to, we as the US, we're not going to get involved in European affairs. We're not going to interfere with existing European colonies. We're not going to, we're going to stay in our country and we're not going to bother you guys. But they did not include North and South America, any portions of that, to be part of that bargain. And they didn't want Europe involved in creating new colonies in the Americas. So basically saying that the South America is off limits for everybody except us. Okay, that is all you have to know about all of that. We did hit a couple things that you're going to see on your test. So if I said it was important, make sure you remember it. All right, this is all going to lead to Texas's War for Independence, which is 1835 to 36. So in 1821, Mexico is going to win independence from Spain. American Stephen F. Austin is going to recruit American families to settle in Texas, which is part of Mexico at this point. Mexican government said, yes, come into Texas. We're cool with that. No big deal. But as things went on, don't worry, I have it recorded too, so you can always come back and check, and we'll go over the important things here in just a second. The Mexican government said, yes, please come in, come settle this land, it's totally fine. And then when Americans and their slaves start outnumbering Mexicans in that area, they're going to be like, well, hey, hang on now. We can't have that because this is our area. You guys got to stop encroaching. And also, we're abolishing slavery too, so you can't bring your slaves here anymore. Well, the American settlers who were settled there are going to say, yeah, no, that's not cool. We're here for a reason. We're here to stay. You let us in, so all right. Friction is going to continue growing between the Americans and Mexicans in Texas. In 1834, General Antonio Lopez de Santa Anna, all you have to remember is Santa Anna, is going to declare himself leader of Mexico and tighten control over Texas. So this is where Santa Anna comes in, and he's going to be the one who's saying, you guys need to stop moving in because this is actually our area. And the way that Mexico operated during this period of history is you would have, can never remember what it is that they were called, but they're essentially warlords. And it would be whoever had the most military backing could take over the area and would then be like, hey, I'm the president of Mexico now. And it's going to create a lot of fighting and clashes within Mexico as a country. But in this case, it's going to work out very well for them because the Mexican army is going to be united under Santa Anna. And as he tightens control of Mexico, it actually doesn't look great for the people who live in Texas. So in 1836, Texans, led by Sam Houston, are going to declare themselves as independent from Mexico and technically from the U.S. as well. All right, important battles. This is the one that you definitely need to remember. The Alamo. We're actually going to watch this movie probably next week while you guys are stuck doing ACT and all of that, pre-ACT and all that. So the Alamo is fought from February to March of 1836. It's that long of a battle because men got into this old Spanish fort, which is the Alamo, and they set up camp basically while 2,000 Mexican soldiers come around and start encircling them. They lay siege to the Alamo, and these 188 men managed to hold them off for several months, for at least a full month. So it's actually pretty cool. But at the same time, every man who fought at the Alamo died. Women, children, and a couple of slaves who were present there. They were let free, or they weren't killed. But every man who was at the Alamo did not make it out, which is going to really tick off the Texans. So Battle of Goliad in March of 1836 is going to be pretty much around the same time as the Alamo falls. Texas forces are going to surrender to the Mexican army. 350 Texans are going to be executed. So all of this happens, and you have these two huge defeats for the Texans. And then you get to the Battle of San Jacinto River in April of 1836. So the Texans are piping hot mad right now because 188 people have died at the Alamo. 350 of their men surrendered and then were killed at Goliad. So they say, we're pretty much done with this. And they're going to launch a surprise attack against Santa Anna at the San Jacinto River. And in exchange for they're just decimate the Mexican forces that are there. In exchange for his freedom, Santa Anna says, okay, you guys can be independent from Mexico. It's going to create the Lone Star Republic, and that's going to be, so that's the Texas Revolution portion of what is going to be the Mexican-American War. So you have that fight that's going to outbreak, and Texas is going to become the Lone Star Republic. So that's going to be between like 1836 to 1845. They are a nation unto themselves. And then in 1845, after a long fight for it, they become part of the United States. And they become a part, it's a problem because Texas is a slave state. At this point, there's tension surrounding the concept of slave states versus free states. So letting in another slave state gives power to those who want to continue slavery over those who want abolition. So that's important. That's why it takes it so long. Okay, Mexican-American War. It's going to be Mexico versus the United States. We are actually going to get involved in the fighting at this point. Now that Texas is part of our nation, we kind of have we have our eyes set on the other coast. So the area that's going to be California, New Mexico, Arizona, Colorado, all of that down through there. So from 1846 to 1848, we are going to fight in Nope, go back. This war, it's going to be caused by westward expansion of the U.S. The U.S. is essentially becoming an empire in its own rights, and it is that's what empires do. They expand. Mexico had to become its own empire, and it was trying to expand. And as we have those, the Texas Revolution, and as each of them keep butting up against each other, it's going to cause some kind of a conflict. So the dispute over where Texas began and ended is going to be kind of the catalyst for it. So this is the U.S. in 1846. All of this is actually our territory. We own the unorganized territory. We've kind of laid claim to Oregon as well, based on where we've been going up and down the Oregon Trail. But we don't actually have any, these aren't states yet. All of this is Mexico. So California, Arizona, New Mexico, Utah, Colorado, Nevada, all of that is part of Mexico at this time. Well, something big is going to happen in 1848 when they are going to discover gold. We've also, as we've been going out and expanding into Oregon and all of that, we found more and more resources out west. So you don't really have to know all of the details of this one. All you really need to know is that President Polk sends a whole bunch of American troops to the disputed territory to the disputed line of where Texas ends and Mexico begins. The Mexican army is going to see them moving into that disputed territory, and they are going to move in and attack, because that's the disputed territory. U.S. Army is chilling out over there, so the Mexican army is going to take that as a threat. Polk is going to then ask Congress to declare war because American blood was spilled on American soil, and Congress is going to say, yes, let's go to war, because Polk can't just outright declare war. That's not a power of the president. So he kind of did a little tricking. Important battles, we are going to get California into this. Bear Flag Republic is going to be established in 1846. That's all you really need to know there. We got Santa Fe in New Mexico in August of 1846. Nope, go back. General Zachary Taylor is going to lead troops to victory at Buena Vista. He's actually going to be, he runs for president. I think it's right after Polk, because he runs with, who does Zachary Taylor run with? I can't remember who it is he runs with, but he runs off of the fame of this battle. Winfield Scott's going to take over Mexico City in 1847, and that is effectively going to draw an end to the war. So, Treaty of Guadalupe Hidalgo is really important. You need to know this. Mexico will recognize the Rio Grande as the southern border. Mexico is going to give over California and New Mexico to the United States, and the United States is going to pay $15 million to Mexico. So, all of this territory right here now belongs to the United States. The continental United States is pretty much now in hands, with the exception of this little area down here, which will be disputed later on. No, wait, I'm pretty sure that's what we buy in Gadsden Purchase. That's what we buy in the Gadsden Purchase. Mexico sold the area for $10 million to create the Southern Transcontinental Railroad. Okay, that is all. I know it was a lot. I know we've gone through a lot of information very quickly on this, and I'm sorry that that's the way we had to do it. This is not my preferred style of teaching, but here we are. Things you guys definitely need to know about from this PowerPoint, at the very least. You need to know when Mexico gained its independence. You need to know about the Alamo. You definitely have to know about the Alamo. You need to know about the Battle of San Jacinto and why it was so hard for Texas to become a state. Last thing I really want you guys to know is Treaty of Guadalupe Hidalgo. So those are the important slides on this PowerPoint. The rest is just context. All right. You guys have any questions about this PowerPoint before I jump over to the other one?
No, ma'am.
Okay, cool. Anybody else? Take that as a no. Okay, on this one, the Spanish-American tension, you need to know this. It's not going to be on the test, but we're going to refer back to it over and over and over. So just make sure you have a general understanding of the tensions that start growing between the North and the South. Missouri Compromise we'll talk about again, so make sure you kind of, you get the general idea of that. You need to know about these two events and why the South wanted Florida. Then you need to know what the Adam-Onis Treaty is, okay? So these two slides are super important. We're going to talk way more about the Monroe Doctrine as we go, so you don't have to know, you don't have to have anything, well, know what it is. You need to be able to define the Monroe Doctrine. You need to know what this is, these two events, and why we wanted Florida. And that's it from this PowerPoint. I want you guys to know these two slides, like have an idea of them, but they are not going to be on your test. Okay? Questions about these two, about this one? And I will add that one to Schoology as well, because I don't believe it's up there. Okay, do you guys have any questions about anything? You do have 2 assignments for today. It's the Heroes and Ghosts of the Alamo, and then the can't remember what I called it. It's a letter from William Travers, who was at the People of Texas. So you have 2 assignments to do for today. Questions about anything? All right. Well, if you don't have questions, you are free to go, and you have a wonderful afternoon, and I will see you guys on next week.
Thank you. You too. Have a great day.
Thank you, Evan. Bye, Amani.
Bye, Miss Bishop.
Bye, Aurora.
I'm so happy that my microphone works.
I am happy for you. It's good to have somebody else talking other than just me.
And Caden.
Yeah, and Caden.
Caden's good at talking. He's great.
Yes, he is. It is a talent of his.